Hi, my name is Auden Childress,
My name is Matthew Pollard.
My name is Malik Melvin.
My name is Thomas Wilkes.
and we created Glass Opus. The problem we wanted to solve was to make rotoscoping software and generally graphic software available to people who could not typically afford it, such as students and artists. The goals of this app were to A, provide a stable, reliable software that artists could use to make their work, and B, to provide a code base which people interested in graphics could look upon and expand their knowledge. The only tech used besides the standard C++ library was the Qt library. Qt supports windowing, networking, and a slew of other features. However, we only used the windowing portions for our project.
So the first thing that Auden's going to do when he starts making the project, he's going to import an image. He's going to choose scale to best fit here, but there are several options. You can scale by width, height, or aspect ratio. And then he's going to switch to brush mode and erase as much of the background as he can so that we just have a smaller picture that he's going to trace. And he's going to go to edit and switch to vector mode, and that's how he's going to start doing what you see here, where he's drawing lines by creating points. And you can even see right there, he's just adjusted the width of the vector and then specified it into 1/2 of the vector so that it really fits the contour of the sleeve better. So what he's essentially doing here is he's creating points, and the points create the line, create the vector. And then once that vector is created to the length that you like, you can start messing with it. He's changing the shape of it, changing the length of it a little bit, just as it's needed to actually contour to the lines of the person that he is tracing here. So as a rotoscoping software, this is really how it shines, is the ability to import a real image, and you can draw it to the best of your ability and outline in a picture on top of it to try to replicate it. And we'll see that he's almost done. He's going to move up to the face and draw the outline of it with the vectors. Same thing he's been doing. You can see on the ear here just how much you can play around with and shrink and stretch the vector to get it to what you want. He made a full-on circle there for the ear and trace the hairline. And with that, the tracing is done, so he's going to go to edit and switch back to brush mode, and that's how you can see him erase the background image there. And that leaves us just with the vector drawing. So now he's going to save his work thus far, and what that does is creates a .glass project file at the specified location with the right name. So now, if he were to take a break or something were to happen or he wanted to restart, he could open that .glass file through the application, and it would allow him to start back from this point here where he saved it. These same vectors and all in this layer would still be present. And then last off, he's going to compile this layer, so it's going to draw all the vectors onto the canvas.
By importing images, new layers are created. Imported images can be resized if they do not match the resolution of the existing layer dimensions. I had the option of not scaling to best fit, aspect ratio, width, or height. I observed the histograms of the image and decided I wanted something a bit more balanced. To fix this, I equalized the image's intensity. As my main focus was going to be the character at the front of the image, I decided adding a blur would be the best way to create juxtaposition between the background foliage and the foreground character. For this, I used a 7x7 box blur. Glass Opus offers many more kernels to use, such as a variety of box and Gaussian blurs, edge detectors, sharpens, unsharp mask, and more. Since I compiled the image, I could now fill in the layers with the raster bucket fill. Some of these touch-ups required precision, and I needed to use zoom to make sure I was filling the correct areas. While there are preset buttons to zoom in, out, and back to 100%, there is also the option to set zoom manually, down to the 100th of a value between 1/4 and 4 times zoom. I could have alternatively chosen to use a pattern bucket fill to produce patterns within the area it fills instead of a solid color. Earlier I could have chosen to instead equalize either the red, green, or blue channels of the image. I re-import the original image so I can isolate the face and capture its likeness now that the body is done. Next, I use the shape profiler to define a unique shape for the brush. While it supports the functionality of predefined brush shapes such as spraying and a variety of application modes, I only use it here to erase and produce a logo on the character's shirt. When something on an image is erased, it will display the contents of the layer behind it.
To create the logo, goes ahead and save the project. He then continues to erase the white space in the background of the image so that he can focus on the face features. He also uses the foreground tool in order to see the layers in front of the image, and touches up some of the erasing. Next, he uses vector manipulation so that he can get the important details of the face, starting with the eyes. After doing so, he proceeds to pick color for the eyes. Using the brush, he makes the color of the person blue, the eye color of the person blue, and then uses the brush erase mark again to touch up a little bit around the eyelids. After doing so, he uses vectors to get the rest of the face, starting with the nose. After he quickly switches layers to where the drawn image is, not the imported image. He uses vectors to draw the nose, and then he draws the eyebrows, changes the width, and then uses the rotation tool to make sure that they are identical almost. Next, he draws the mouth using the same vector manipulation as he did with the eyes and the nose, in order to make sure he has a mostly accurate image of what was imported. After getting the necessary facial details, he takes the color tool to correctly color the ear and the face, as you'll see in a moment. But before changing the color of the face, he changes the layer back to where the image was and deletes that layer, therefore deleting the image and clearing some space for him to change the color of the person's face so that you'll see it. And then he goes and does the same for the mouth and the rest of the eyes, so that the facial image, or the face of the drawn image is completed. Next, he inserts a layer to begin working on adding to the shirt's logo. Using the brush, as you'll see in a second, he erases some of the shirt so that erases some of the shirt, anticipating where the logo will be. And then he uses the transparency fill tool to complete the erasing of the white background behind the logo. And then he uses the foreground tool to hide the layers in front of the current layer.
Once the foreground is hidden, Auden then uses the brush tool to make a background for the shirt and sets it to white with the raster fill tool. Once the background has been filled in, Auden then goes to edit the size and shape of the vector, rotating it in the process. After it's where he likes, Auden then edits the color of the vector using the vector color tool to add a two-tone gradient. Once that's done and Auden set the foreground layer to on again, Auden then goes to add more details to the shirt. Auden uses the vector tool to add hem seams to the neck and the bottom of the shirt, as you can see that he's doing with the top hem seam right now. And then the bottom, he does the same. After he's made the hem seams where he likes, he compiles the layer and then uses the raster fill tool to add to make those areas transparent, and then removes any white space on other layers after making both seams as transparent as he can. As you can see, he's removing the white space from the layer beneath this one. After that, he goes and edits the pattern tool and edits the pattern in the pattern profiler so he can use that later. Once the pattern's edited, he then goes and fills in the hems with the actual brush tool and then cleans up any areas that are colored outside of the hem. Once the hem scene is done, he then changes the color of the pattern and then adds the pattern to the shirt, as you can see with the bottom scene, and then he edits the pattern a little bit to make it more defined, and then finishes the top scene with the new pattern. Once he's done with the pattern, he then goes and starts to work on the hair. To work on the hair, Auden uses the spray density tool with a setting of 127. He then turns off the pattern profiler, and then takes the color of the hair and shifts it up, so he can then use the spray tool to make highlights and add those details to the hair, as you can see. Once he's done with the hair, he zooms out and contemplates adding a filter, and then after that he goes and exports it, giving it a name, and then he's done.